Binance delisted HNT on March 23rd of this year, a few days after Helium announced a delay in the migration to Solana. This was troubling news at the time, and no definitive reason for this delisting was ever given. Whatever the reason, it certainly didn't help the Helium brand or help build awareness or trust with the network at the time. Now, a few months later, and with the migration to Solana behind us, it seems that Binance is still holding onto some major HNT bags and has also accumulated a large Helium IOT position. I can't think of any reason for this other than a plan to relist the tokens at some point in the near future. Now keep in mind, the Helium IOT token did not exist when Binance delisted HNT originally back in March. Let's take a look at the details in today's video. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video here on the Crypto Compound channel. Thank you guys all so much for being here. I hope you guys are having a great day. Please hit that like and subscribe on the way in. It really helps support the channel. And as always, there are absolutely zero sponsors for today's video. In fact, perhaps you guys can be the sponsor of today's video by hitting that like and subscribe button. Thank you guys very much. And there are some ref codes down in the description that you guys can take advantage of, save you some money that would directly help support the channel. However, guys, today we are going to be talking about Binance and Helium and a little bit of Solana. Now, Helium and Binance have quite the controversial history ever since the delisting of HNT on both the international Binance platform and Binance US. This was an absolutely brutal hit to Helium, as that was the #1 exchange that HNT was traded on. Now, the largest exchange thereafter is KuCoin. However, I don't actually know anybody who uses KuCoin. As you can see, the volume is not very big, and there are a few lesser known, less trustworthy ones down below, but it is fair to say that it was a huge hit in the gut for Helium to be delisted that way, especially considering Helium has never had any exposure to Coinbase, but that is a whole other story. Now, I do want to quickly thank Tony Bet here on Twitter, who pointed this out earlier. This is what we're going to be mainly talking about in today's video. He pointed out that Binance is a major holder here, a top 5 holder of both Helium IOT and Helium HNT. As you can see, some people were looking for links. I dropped the SolScan link here, which is a link to this page. I will put that down in the description as well if you guys want to come and take a look. However, let's talk quickly before we get into the nitty gritty. Let's talk quickly about the history here. So as we can see, this was published March 17th, a few days prior to Helium being delisted. Helium plunged 23% after the Binance delisting and the Solana delay. Now, we know that that wasn't the only complication that Binance and Helium have had. We know that there was a misallocation on Binance's part of 20 million HNT when the mobile token was introduced. This was a major debacle, likely an embarrassment on the part of Binance and an internal disaster for them, really. I don't know where the lapse in communication was, whether that lands in the Helium Foundation's lap or Binance's lap, but 4.8 million worth of HNT, worth approximately $20 million, was wrongly distributed. Real big disaster, and that was a long time ago. That was back in September of 2022. So now, leading up to the Solana migration, where Helium IOT was introduced, and all of these other moving parts were now being introduced into the Helium ecosystem and the whole migration to Solana, I think Binance might have been spooked and decided to pull out of Helium completely to avoid any issues or disruption with their platform or with redistributing incorrectly. But the delisting did take place a few days after the Solana delay was announced. Now, if we go over here to the actual announcement, they didn't give any specifics. However, they listed a bunch of things that might have been a factor in the decision. Commitment of team to project, level and quality of development activity, trading volume and liquidity, stability and safety of network from attacks, network smart contract stability, level of public communication, responsiveness to our periodic due diligence requests, evidence of unethical, fraudulent conduct or negligence, contribution to a healthy and sustainable crypto ecosystem. Could have been any combination of any of those, but we just don't know. However, after all of this, it is very interesting to see here on solscan.io that the fifth largest holder of Helium IOT is in fact Binance here. Now keep in mind, back when the HNT was delisted, Helium IOT token did not exist, which leads me to believe that they must have accumulated this position more recently. Very, very interesting. And I find no reason for them to do this if they didn't plan on building a treasury and a position to provide liquidity once they do onboard Helium IOT, perhaps as a possibility in the future. Now, further, if we look at Helium HNT here on SolScan and we go to holders, we can see that Binance, even after the delisting back in March, is still the third largest owner of HNT. Now, that is not something I would expect from an exchange that doesn't plan on ever trading or supporting HNT again. That is very, very interesting. And again, thank you to Tony Bet here for pointing this out on Twitter. But again, it's hard for me to find any explanation for this if they don't plan on relisting HNT and supporting HNT on their exchange. Now, one of the last things I want to point out here on SolScan is that we do not see the same pattern as we see with Helium HNT and Helium IOT. We do not see the same pattern with Helium Mobile. As we can see, if we select Helium Mobile here and we move over to the holders, we do not see the same thing as we saw with the other two. We don't see any owner as Binance here. Of course, I don't know how the name or the owner address gets labeled as Binance here, but the other two's had it and this one did not, which is rather interesting. Of course, it's certainly possible one of these is Binance, but I don't know how they get that title, but we don't see the same pattern here with the Helium Mobile token as we saw with the other two. Again, I'll link this down below so you guys can come take a look here on SolScan. Really interesting to see Binance listed there. Now, guys, lastly, I do want to take a quick look here at the charts as we are talking about exchanges. I figured we would touch on the price here as the chart is getting a little bit more interesting as we move forward here. As we know, we have these two slight double bottoms and this massive price divergence here. As we can see, equal levels here on the MACD and a far lower level here on the price. But the really interesting thing that has just developed more recently is this move right here. Now, the reason it's so interesting is because buyers stepped in prior to this key inflection point here, which was the low of this move, and it was a turning point here in this potential recovery. And then this was the point where sellers gave up and we saw two large green candles and we shot right up to $2 after we crossed this level here. And as we can see, just yesterday, we were not able to go and retest that level. The buyers stepped in prior, which is a good sign, and this is going to be a very important level going forward. Buyers are going to have to maintain this level in order to avoid retesting the low $1 range again. But this level being held for right now is a good sign. This divergence here in the price and the MACD is also a very good sign. However, we do have this cross down here, which is not a good sign. That cross is not a good sign. However, this is not an end-all be-all for the HNT price. A recovery here and a slight outperformance in the near future would be really welcomed, as this was a pretty gnarly and gradual dive that we've experienced about the last week. But guys, let me know your thoughts. Let me know what you're thinking about this potential relisting of HNT on Binance, what reasoning you could see for them holding HNT and IOT. But guys, let me know your thoughts and any questions you guys have down below. But of course, I would love to see HNT be on not only on Binance, but on Coinbase as well, to really improve the trust, the awareness, the credibility, all of the above here for Helium. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you for watching until the end. Please hit that like and subscribe if you have not already. Leave any questions or comments down below. But just like that, this video is over, and I will see you next time.